Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine, and as we enter the last week of April, we have fresh stripers to talk about in all three southern New England states. We have great togging going on in Connecticut and Rhode Island. Freshwater fishing continues to impress everywhere in between. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
So, before we get into the fishing reports, I have a couple newsy things to talk about. I'm going to lead in with the winners of the Floyd Roman Nike contest. So, I had two runners-up. I had a lot of great photos this time around. I'm really enthused to see that, and expecting to see even more as more fishing opportunity opens up as we get into May. But we're going to start with the runners-up. The first runner-up was Fernando Lage with this really nice shot of a rainbow trout that he took recently. Just a really well-posed shot, and really sort of captures that feeling of trout fishing in April. I think he nailed it. The second runner-up is going to be Jeff Swayze. He's a guy I really respect. He sends in a lot of photos, especially in the spring and early summer. He lives up in Maine. He puts a lot of really nice largemouth and smallmouth bass on the shoreline. Fishes mostly from shore, catches some big ones, and here's a real nice largemouth that he took earlier in April up in Maine. So those two guys are going to get a Yozuri product from me. I'll be contacting them to get those in the mail, hopefully in the next week or so. The winner is Max Khalil, and he won not only because the photo sort of captures the excitement of catching a big fish, but also just because of the story behind it, and the honesty behind it. You know, he kind of confided in me that he's only been freshwater fishing for a few weeks and only had a few largemouth under his belt, more of a saltwater guy, but decided to dip his toe into the freshwater world. And I mean, you can see it here, that adrenaline-fueled look of astonishment. It's really hard it's hard not to look at that photo and smile, and that's kind of why I chose it. But this was a 5 1/4 pound largemouth, really nice fish, and again, you can see it in his face. I mean, he's blown away, and that's what we're always trying to capture in these photos, and I think he nailed it. So I'll be contacting him for whatever color he would like, and we'll get that out ASAP. And I'm going to start another contest now. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, it started last Friday, and I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to give away yet. The only thing I know is it's going to be a metal lip. So it could be something that's subsurface, could be something that dives real deep, could be a surface swimmer, or it could be something real elaborate, something jointed. I have a couple different things that I kind of want to do, so I'm going to have to look at the wood I have, and we'll decide from there. So hopefully you guys are okay with entering a contest not knowing exactly what you're going to win, but you don't really have any choice. So, but I will have more details of what I'm going to give away next week, and until then, just send those photos in. And something that really helps me is if you put giveaway or contest in the subject line of the email. It makes it easier for me to find them if I miss them, and it makes it easier for me to sort them out when I go through to pick the winners. So if you could do that, that'd be great. Send it to me at danderson@thefisherman.com, and we're going to run this one until the Thursday before Memorial Day. So I think you got 5 weeks to wow me. Expect to see a lot more saltwater species this time around, and really excited to see what you guys catch. Another thing that's important that we mention is Connecticut has finalized some of their marine fishing regulations for 2022, and it kind of feels like a lot of the states this year, for whatever reason, have really been kind of waiting to the last minute to get this news out to us. I know I gave you guys details on Rhode Island last week, so here's what I know from Connecticut for this week. So the sea bass season is going to be open from May 19th till the end of the year. It's still going to be a 5-fish bag limit, and the minimum size is going to be increased to 16 inches. Last year it was 15 inches, this year it's 16 inches, don't forget that. And then the for hire fleet will get a little boost in September. They'll go up to 7 fish after September 1st. Scup, everything's the same, season-wise, but the minimum size has been increased from 9 inches to 10 inches for this year, and that shouldn't be a big deal. A lot of big scup around these last few years, and should still be able to fill a limit pretty easily. If you need the details on exactly what the limits are and when the bumps are and stuff like that, you can find that at thefisherman.com. Fluking's going to get a little easier in Connecticut. It's a 4-fish limit, but the minimum size has been decreased by half an inch, so we got 4 fish at 18.5 inches. And togging, luckily, since tog season has already begun, there's no change to the seasons or size. So that's what we have to look forward to, or those are the new rules that I know for Connecticut for 2022. And still waiting on Massachusetts, so we'll have to see what they come up with. Last things before we get into the fishing part of this whole thing. On May 1st, both of our tournaments begin. So the Dreamboat competition and the Coastal Kayak Clash begin on May 1st. They are open to all subscribers. There's no entry fee. So if you're not a subscriber and you'd like to try your hand at winning a Steiger Craft Miami or a brand new Hobie kayak, or the many other prizes that we're offering in both of these contests, you can consider the $29.95 it costs to subscribe for a year as your entry fee. I mean, there's no tournament on the East Coast that has an entry fee that low. So subscribe to the magazine. You're going to get your 12 issues that come in your mailbox. You're going to get 20-something digital editions that come to your email every week in between. You're going to get all the reports, and you're going to get access to the other 2 editions as well. So whether you subscribe in New England, New Jersey, or Long Island, you get to read them all. It's probably the best $29.95 you can spend on a fishing publication, so check it out, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. So let's start north of the border, and I'm hearing a lot of really good freshwater reports from New Hampshire and especially Maine. Largemouth bass fishing seems to be off the charts right now. A lot of big fish being taken. A lot of guys doing very well on big baits, on big swim baits. We got these pictures here from Jesse Hall, who you may remember wrote an article about swim baiting in the March edition. Really great fisherman, and man, he puts up some serious fish up there in Maine. So that's something to keep in mind. As we jump down into southern New England, into Massachusetts, freshwater fishing throughout the interior part of the state is phenomenal. Still hearing awesome reports from Wachusett for both lake trout and smallmouth bass. Haven't heard a lot of reports from from Quabbin, but I know that place is going to be popping off now. It always starts with a bang there. Great smallmouth bass fishing there, and awesome largemouth bass fishing up in the coves, and of course the lake trout are perhaps second to none in that place. So that's something to keep an eye on. And for a little bit more on what's going on freshwater-wise in interior Massachusetts, we're going to toss it over to Roy Leva.
Hey Dave, it's been a couple weeks and the fishing keeps on improving here in Western Mass. I'm actually going to go out and do a little trout fishing right now. State's continuing to stock some really nice fish. I got a 5-pound brookie last week, along with some gorgeous tigers, rainbows, and browns, to say the least. It's kind of been the mood I'm in. The river's been really high because of all the rain we've gotten. So it's been a little tough to target some of the other species that are out here, like striper and shad and walleye and such. One of the things that a lot of people always ask me is jerk baits. I use a lot of jerk baits for trout. I think it's probably one of the funnest ways to catch them. I mean, get them on metal and flies and spinners. And other than the fly, the jerk bait's my favorite. I like to carry jerk baits that cover all 3 ranges, so a sinking model, suspending, and floating. One of the things I want to say about jerk baits is there's 3 ways that I like to work this. Sometimes very fast and erratic, that's going to give me a reaction bite, and then there's super slow, really super slow, and that is probably very hard to fish, because I'm talking like almost needlefish like in your retrieve. That makes it a little difficult, but it's very effective. So the third would be the topwater wake. which is also slow. I like throwing J7s and J9 Rapalas for that broken back, or any even small tiny crankbaits will work for this. And you wake them on the surface. That also is very deadly. Also takes a lot of patience because you're fishing very slow. And a lot of these baits that float like this don't cast very far. So you got to pick your spots and have at it. But it is an incredible way to catch a lot of trout. It's an incredible way to catch a lot of big trout. So if you haven't thrown jerk baits at stock trout or wild trout, I'd say you should try it because it's very addictive. All right, we'll catch you next week. Hopefully we get some good fish today.
Thanks, Roy. Good to have you back. Hope you get over those allergies soon, my friend. That's they can be a real bear. So far this year, I've avoided them. We'll see if that sticks. But as we move down into the Cape, the freshwater fishing continues to be awesome. We're hearing about lots of big brown trout being stocked in places like Long Pond, Little Pond, Peters Pond, and many others. And some really good fish taken. I haven't heard about any giants caught yet, but I've heard about fish up to 5 pounds taken. You know, these broodstock browns that have been recently stocked. And as we've talked about many times, the best time to catch a stock trout is as soon as you possibly can after they get into the lake. And we discussed it at length last week, but anything bright, shiny, big, and erratic is going to draw the eye of these fish because they have no natural instincts. They've been in captivity their entire lives, and all that they know is that thing looks like it's trying to get away. So the easier it is for them to see it, the more likely you are to get them to eat it. On the saltwater side, I have now heard about striped bass on the South Cape. Small fish. Nothing bigger than like 24 inches. Same story out in the Vineyard. We're hearing about fresh fish hitting the south side of the Vineyard and popping into some of the inlets out there. Same thing. Nothing real big. Nothing even 30 inches. Fish 24 inches and under. But it's a good sign. Things are starting to fire up. And if you've done it for any number of years, as soon as it begins, it's like someone just pulled the cork and things it's just a rush after that. And we're going to see bigger and bigger fish every week from here on out. Togging has also begun now in Massachusetts. I haven't heard about any really big ones, but it seems to be confined mostly to the west end of the canal and then sort of the eastern reaches of Buzzards Bay. So from Marion to the canal seems to be the area. I've heard about some good fish taken in kayaks, heard about lots of action inside the canal and then just outside the canal, like out on Stony Point Dyke and places like that. And that's the same thing as the stripers. Once it begins, it just gets better and better and better. So if you've been kind of waiting to hear that there's tog around, you can stop waiting because they're here. And that's what I have for you guys in Massachusetts this week. In Rhode Island, we have fresh stripers in Rhode Island as well. And we've actually seen some slot fish taken in the actual surf. I have a picture here from Sam Howe. This was a 30-inch striper that was taken. I think it was taken in the corners of the beaches in Newport. But we're hearing about fish there. We're hearing about fish in South County. It's funny, I haven't heard about a fish at the West Wall yet, although I'd have to assume that there are fish there. Just haven't actually heard that report. But we're seeing lots of pictures coming in of of fish with sea lice on them, or schoolies in the open surf. So water temps are still under 50, but it seems like these fish don't care. There must be a decent amount of bait out there. These fish are moving in, and guys are getting them on a variety of things. But of course, small things like cocoa minnows, or just little tiny paddle tails, or those little diesel minnows from Z-Man, something like that on a light jig head. 1/4 ounce and under. That's going to be your best bet. Another way you can get them, maybe a more exciting way, but might not catch as many, something like a jumping minnow. Just popping that thing along on the surface and just waiting for that first explosion of the year. And since we're already seeing slot fish, you can pretty much bet that, by next week's report, these fish will be filtering into all the estuaries in Buzzards Bay now. And we'll start hearing about a lot more keeper fish. And probably within the next 2 weeks to, in the next 14 to 20 days, we'll hear about that first keeper hitting the canal. So, a lot to look forward to there. Tog-wise, togging seems to be pretty good in Rhode Island. I've even seen a fish that was over 10 pounds now. And most of these fish are in the 15 to 30 foot range. Probably getting some out on some of the deeper spots too, but a place that's really popular that produces fish early is Jamestown. You know, Beaver Tail, and then kind of heading up back toward Newport, heading east up into like Fort Wetherill area are all good spots to try. You just got to find that shallower water, because a lot of that water up in Wetherill especially is super deep. So you know, just find those high spots and get a good shot at finding some fish in there. Haven't heard of any stripers in the bay. I'm sure there are a few popping around. Striped bass, holdover striped bass action continues. Probably your best shot at getting a bigger fish right now. But again, plenty of fresh fish out front. And freshwater rise in Rhode Island, mostly just hearing about trout right now. Guys just taking advantage of opening day having passed, and still lots of good catches being made from one end of the state to the other. And that's a story that I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. Over in Connecticut, same story. We've got some fresh stripers in the Eastern Sound. Probably not, I haven't heard about anything further west than like the Connecticut River. But there are mostly, you know, real short fish in that area. I have heard some good togging reports. I actually talked to Toby Lipinski, my predecessor. Is that what he is? Predecessor, yeah. He said he did very well in the Western Sound this week. In fact, he kind of said that they crushed him. Plenty of keepers, plenty of shorts, and really fast action. So that bite is on, and it's good to hear that, because, you know, it's in Connecticut a lot of times, a lot of years, it's like you get those last 3 or 4 days of the season, and then it's just dead. But it's already starting, so if you're craving some togging, I would get out there now. There is some striper action, you know, still some great holdover striper action up in the Connecticut River, up in the Housatonic River. A lot of these fish are relating to the herring runs, so that's a place that you can concentrate your efforts. And you want to fish things that look like herring. You know, you want to fish a danny plug, you want to fish redfins, you want to fish things like a big finesse fish. And again, I think I've said this before on this report, but you can't be afraid to fish fast. Those herring are going through there fast, and these bass are used to seeing that. So if you rip something faster like a magic swimmer, it might be the ticket. Very often is the ticket. So that's a good thing to keep in mind there. Freshwater wise, trout fishing in Connecticut has been off the charts. It's been off the charts all year, and just continues. The state has done a phenomenal job stocking again this year. They continue to stock. You know, everyone from little kids to everybody above that. They're crushing these trout everywhere, and I mean, at this point, every body of water that gets a stocking has been stocked at least once, and guys are just doing great out there. So that's another thing that you should keep in mind if you just want to get the rod bent. Let's throw it over to Max now from Fisherman's World. Hear what's happening out in the western end of the state.
The striped bass bite along our beaches, our estuaries, and up in the Housatonic right now is phenomenal. Guys are reporting a lot of good fish in the slot, and then a couple over slot way back up in herring runs, the upper Housatonic, and up other tidal rivers. Guys dunking salmons from the beaches or piers are cashing in. And also guys fishing local herring runs, tight quarters, are also reporting a good bite. There should be more herring moving in as we progress into the spring, and the bite should only get better. And then we're going to see a lot of fish start moving in from the west. In freshwater, the trout fishing still remains really good. And then guys fishing the Saugatuck now are reporting a decent bite. We've seen some bass, some walleye, even some trout over 5 pounds. If you're fishing the local rivers, the Nauk River is still fishing really well, the Mianus and the Saugatuck. Thanks and good luck.
Thanks, Max. Appreciate the report. Looks like you and Lauren had a good time out there fishing this week, and we'll look forward to hearing what you guys do next week. So that's what I have for you guys this week. Hopefully the reports were helpful. If you are not a subscriber to the Fisherman, I highly recommend heading over to the website, checking out what we got going on there. There's enough free content there for you to get a pretty good sampling of what we offer. We're covering freshwater fishing, inshore fishing, surf fishing, fly fishing, offshore fishing, and you know, everything in between that I didn't mention. We have reports that cover the entire coast from Delaware all the way up to Maine, and you get access to all 3 editions with the subscription. So head over there and check it out. If you're still not interested, at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube, and hit that little bell thing down there so you get a notification every time we post something new. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.